if talent is the number one priority for so many companies, then there's something kind of not working out here.
Max, thanks for joining us. What is wrong with recruitment today?
It's a pleasure being here, Jack. Well, you could either ask employers and recruiters, and probably they would say, well, the recruitment and hiring process is taking a lot of time these days, and there's not enough talent out there. Now, you can ask the talents and the candidates, and you're probably going to get a different story in terms of almost the fact that, listen, the companies and the recruiters, they all basically are trying to push us away, and they're not really interested in engaging us. Now, it's pretty funny to look at that because when you ask the recruiters, I've just seen a recent survey, and 83% of recruiters replied that hiring and talent is actually the number one priority of the company. So that's interesting to look at, and they say, and then you can wonder, really? Is that the case? Then how come that when you look at the talent experience and the recruitment experience out there, you see a lot of differences and you see a lot of discrepancy in what you hear the companies are doing and what the reality actually is. I mean, I got some horror stories from the past couple of years. I've talked to hundreds of people, very experienced people, and sometimes, new graduates and whatever it may be. You got this online application platform for a lot of companies, applicant tracking system, and automatic replies and responses to confirm the applications. Sometimes you hear that in some surveys, over 90% of applicants say they never hear anything beyond the first confirmation of that application, and then it just dies out. And then the actual process of online applications is often called just a black hole, where you spend a lot of time, sometimes hours, to get in there and try to apply and put everything right in your CV, your cover letter, whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, you just maybe get that confirmation and you never ever hear anything more. So if talent is the number one priority for so many companies, then there's something kind of not working out here, right? And that's an interesting point to start looking at and say, what can be changed there?
So is the recruitment process currently cost-effective for businesses?
Well, that's another good question, because what appears to be the trend the past couple of years is that the time it takes from the position of how long does the process take itself is very time-consuming and, of course, costly. At the other hand, if you look at the recruitment experience, then it's very interesting to see certain examples. And let's just talk very briefly. I usually don't talk about specific companies, but I know about a year or so ago, Virgin Media started looking at how their recruitment experience and process is working out. And what they found is that they were getting about 150,000 applications along a year. And out of those, they were hiring something like 3,500 people. And because of the type of business they are, a lot of their applicants and talents that apply to them are actually consumers and customers of Virgin Media as well. So they started realizing that along those years with these applications that they got, about 7,500 people were actually dropping out from being customers of Virgin Media at the same time. And they kind of started calculating the cost and estimating the cost of that, and realized that it's almost around $6 million they were losing from this candidate pool, where people started applying and then had maybe a bad experience and then dropped out as customers as well. So they've actually committed themselves to changing that recruitment experience, and they've said that not only are we going to create an experience where every applicant who gets in here, even if they get rejected, they're going to have an experience that they're better off as a candidate after that experience, and the fact that we're going to start generating revenue from these people afterwards as well, and they're working very hard to get there. So that's a whole different perspective to look at. So how costly is it? Well, it depends.
So Max, with that being said, how can businesses improve their recruitment procedure?
Now, that's a very good question, because there are some simple steps that leaders actually can take. And within our leadership program that we really promote and try to engage leaders with, which has a 5-step process, the very first step is actually, when you're creating an employee experience, hire people right. and do the right things when you're hiring. So the first step, and the really easiest step to take is, hey, stop for a second and see how are you communicating to all the applicants that are coming your way. Even your automated messages, you can change them, you can draft them, and you can put them in a way that really communicates with some empathy and has a good communication within it. And there are some companies out there who do it very well, and they manage to kind of retain the interest even of the applicants who get rejected, because at the end of the day, they could end up becoming some kind of stakeholder or a customer of the company. Very good example, case in point, is Virgin Media, right? So I would say that would be the one thing, and at the same time, there is no excuse anymore, considering how much software and systems we got out there in terms of automating responses, to leave candidates without any response whatsoever. Never, ever leave an application without any response, even if it's just a rejection. Make sure it happens, all right? Now, another thing you got to do, and I think as a leader, first of all, make sure that it's not only the HR department who's doing this, you as a leader got to really get involved and make sure that this is done in collaboration with HR, so that you don't come back later and say, well, we're so disconnected from HR and we don't know what's happening out there. Map your recruitment experience and really get in just the same way that we kind of analyze customer journey when it comes to customer experience. We've got to be able to map the experience for a recruitment process and the journey and see what's within each level, what are the touch points, and what are the things and the little steps that we can do to change it. And then finally, at the very end of it, I think the key thing is, don't treat talent, if you want them to come your way, don't treat them like commodity. Because it doesn't matter how much demand is out there or supply, you want to make sure that this is your marketing and branding opportunity towards the talent pool. Make sure you're doing it in the right way. So don't treat people like commodity.
Thank you, Max.
Pleasure.
And thank you for watching, and for everything else affecting the FX markets, be sure to stay with us here at Dukascopy TV.